Shut up and sit down.
This is the Uncensored Voice. No bullshit, just real shit.
Discussing things that will stir the pot. Only here on the Uncensored Voice.
With your host, Ricky Midnight.
Hey guys, this is Ricky Midnight. I recorded on the Hollis Report with three other gentlemen. We kind of talked about certain things that are going on in our country right now and how we feel about them. So this is the podcast.
Hello, American and global audiences. Welcome to another episode 25 of Hollis Report, the JC Hollis Show. I'm your host, JC Hollis. We got a great show for you today. We have new special guests, Jeffrey Davis, Joshua Sheldon, and Ricky Midnight from the Uncensored Voice. So American and global audiences, kindly, warmly welcome all of our special guests to the show. It's going to be a great show. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Hi guys, how are you doing?
Fantastic.
Okay, so
To the show.
Yeah, welcome everyone. It's going to be a great show. And Jeffrey, let's go ahead and give you, if you can, 2-3 minutes to showcase your consulting business. You can talk about anything you want about it as much as you're comfortable. And I think it'd be cool to include some good strategies or good tips to live a more successful life.
Sure. So my name is Jeffrey Davis. I'm based out of San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. And I work with corporate executives, business owners, and I help them get from a place of chaos to clarity. And that works on the 360. Whenever you're in chaos, it impacts all levels of your life, business, personal, financial, everything. So the ways that I do that are I help people step into their power with their upgrading their emotional intelligence, which impacts their leadership. I help them operate in a state of flow, which is high performance. And by doing those things, then we yield a greater level of fulfillment and alignment with what people are doing. So that's essentially what I'm doing with people that I work with. It's transformational work, and it's a lot of fun. Basically, I take people from a place where they're frustrated, stressed out, overwhelmed, not having fun, to a place where they're experiencing a lot of joy, a lot of creativity, a lot of ease, a lot of flow, and a lot of connection.
Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds fascinating.
That's definitely most of us nowadays.
Right?
Frustrated.
Okay, American audiences in Mexico. This is Jeffrey Davis's contacts website.
So I mean, the impetus for me doing this is I was this guy, and I needed to unravel all the stuff that I had avoided. Unraveling the deeper questions that were really, I'd kind of, on some level, I had gotten to that top tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what gets you to that top level won't actually help you when you're at that top level. So it's a different skill set. It's a different way of operating. And it increases your magnetism. It brings a lot more joy and a lot more fun into your life. So. But I can tell you that from the outside, I looked like, and the people that I work with looked like we were having the life. It's a designed life that's been sold to us, and people are like, oh, well, that looks good. I want that. I want 2 of those and 3 of those. And it looks great, and it's very functional externally, but the real function is internally, and that will reflect you as opposed to something that's been sold to you and everybody else.
Wow.
So it's about personal attunement to what your purpose is here on this world. And when you do that, you start to really hear and feel the people around you and feel their energies and operate differently.
I like that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to get into the actual show topic. And wow, we covered that in a good time. So here we go. The topic: societal tech psychological progression, with a subtopic of what would be a mild conspiracy theory of predictive programming. So gentlemen, how have each of you seen how American or Mexican society, wherever you're from, how the society around you has shifted or changed or transformed in terms of technology, collective individual psyches, psychological change over the course of your lifetime. And I think this, for everyone, the changes have been accelerated since year 2020. Um, even, I mean, I know we want to kind of shy away from being too political, but what are these changes that you have seen in terms of tech and psyche?
You want to take that, Jeffrey?
Well, I mean, I can speak to some of this from my background, both in terms of how I work with people from a mindset and psychological standpoint, and also from my experience prior to this, being the corporate guy in corporate advertising. And so working for major brands and working in the media buying and planning department and using statistical research that shows that if you show somebody a moving commercial, 15-second commercial, so 45 seconds in total, 3 times or more, it's called the effective frequency, then you start to impact somebody's belief systems, their behaviors, their actions, and their ways of being. So, to say that media, that we just turn on the programming box and, just have entertainment, what you're doing to somebody or something is also doing that to you too. So, it's it's an experience. I'll tell you a really interesting experience. So I threw my TV out. I'm an American living in Mexico for the last short amount of time, but I threw my TV out maybe 15, 20 years ago. And I went to Australia and I met these 2 new people. And one of the people was really excited to share something with me. And he was a movie buff. So, I hadn't watched movies or TV in a long time. And so he said, let's watch a movie. I said, okay, fine. Whatever you want to watch. Because I hadn't watched anything in a long time. So he picked, I don't know if you've seen Taken.
Yes.
Yeah, Liam Neeson, which is essentially, an entire time period of people trying to kill one person, the other person trying to kill the bad people, right? It's just everybody trying to harm people. And so I sat through this thing, and since my body was not acclimated to this level of exposure on any regular basis, at the end of 2 hours, I was like, and he said, so what do you think? And I was like, oh my God. He's like, what happened? What's going on? I said, I experienced what happens in my body when I'm interacting with something like that. And my entire body, because your body doesn't know the difference, your mind is experiencing it as if it's real.
Yeah.
Your body is in fight and hating and hurting this other person and being hurt by them, and in interaction like that. That's what your mind and your body is experiencing, whether you're actually doing it or not. The experience is the same. So, I mean, yeah, it's powerful. Media is powerful.
Yeah, it is. Well, Josh, you want to answer that as well?
So I am entering in the field of psychology, more focusing on human behavior. So I, what he said was at, on the nail, really. It it speaks volume actually to how people interact with one another, how people just carry on basic conversations. It more or less seems people are more political, more divided, and more uh, having a hatred towards others more so than what it was like 15 to 30 years ago. I mean, just last 40 years, a lot of stuff has changed where the main value was family and God, things like that, but it's kind of completely changed to where it caused social instability, really.
Yeah. And, Getting into predictive programming. So there's the theory states that they're Hollywood or movie makers, they release movies, and then about within 10 to 20 years later, something from the movie happens in real life. So we could see this with Terminator. We could see this with 28 Days Later. So Terminator was about humanoid robots. Then later on, the military is developing robotic dogs and drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, etc. So we also see 28 Days Later is like a zombie viral infection movie. Would that come out like 8 years ago? Go ahead, Ricky.
Speaking of that, did you see the movie Carriers with the guy who's a new Captain Kirk, Christopher Pine, or what's his name, Chris Pine or something like that? Have you seen the movie Carriers? They're talking about, and this came out long before COVID. They were talking about a virus that came from China. And everyone's walking around wearing their N95 mask, trying not to get the other people sick. Now, the virus is actually, not just internally physical. I mean, you can actually see the physical manifestations from the outside of the body, but that kind of parallels what's kind of happening now, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, and I think I think there's loads of evidence that a lot of this, what's been happening in the past year and a half, it's been pre-planned. It's not an accident. It's not spontaneous. It's been methodically, systematically planned. And there's supporting documents. There's even statements made by certain doctors who are spearheading this. And in America, it's been released, and like it almost appears that they had prior knowledge of it. So it's very interesting. We're going on 10 minutes and 54 seconds into the show so far. Well, this has been a really cool show. Anyone got any concluding thoughts?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
On the note of a virus, it's interesting. Some people do ask why would they show a future event, and the more they ask this, the more I kind of get very hesitant on answering it. But the main reason is, if you know Kabbalah, which is black magic, and Judaism, one of the key things within that is telling you ahead of time before they actually do it. Now, regardless of your politics and where you stand, it's quite hard to deny the fact that there's a lot of movies out there that show future events, all the way to COVID, and probably the most sensitive one, which would be with 9/11. So it's quite interesting to say this to people, and then they look at you as if you're some type of loon. But there is evidence out there for it, no matter on how crazy it sounds, right?
Evidence for what?
For future events, all the way on currencies, and then in movies,
for sure.
in TV shows. I mean, all throughout the 90s, like the number one TV show was the X-Files, and all that was about aliens. And now that's all we're hearing about, right? Like, apparently the most sensitive subject other than 9/11, and they were all not wanting to talk about it, but now for some reason now they want to talk about it. Like, it just seems a bit concerning to me that no one's really paying attention.
Right.
Well, the biggest psychological impact that I've seen in the last year or so is that the people who are, I guess, scared of everything, meaning people who feel hatred toward you if you didn't take the shot, or feel hate, or they feel like you're a lesser person if you didn't take the shot, or they feel that you are the spread if you didn't take the shot. And the best way to say that that's a bunch of crap is visually, because a lot of people don't understand words, or they just block out the words when you say them. So if you visually show them a picture of a guy holding an umbrella, and I've seen this meme, guy holding an umbrella, or a woman holding an umbrella walking down a sidewalk, guy not holding an umbrella, and the woman is mad at the man because she's saying my umbrella is not going to work unless you're holding one as well. So it's kind of the same thing that I say with the shot. I actually ride with a coworker who had the shot, and he's going on his booster shot right now, and he's not scared of me because I haven't had the shot. He knows that the shot is either going to protect him or it's not, and if it's not, then it was worthless. Why should I take it anyway? He understands that. But for people, and in this case, I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about Joe Biden. For him to say everybody should take the shot in America because I say you have to, and if you don't, your employer should fire you, or I'm going to fine them. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing hatred from people who took the shot and think that everyone else should take the shot because I'm going to lose my job, or my sister's going to lose her job, or my husband's going to lose her job if they don't take the shot, and blah, blah, blah. All he's doing is separating people. He's creating hatred for other people within our country, kind of like Obama did,
I think, again, it's only a theory, but I think there's a high possibility that he was purposely put there to do that. I mean, like, the guy can barely construct a coherent sentence, but if you were to put him in office with what he wants to do, and if that's a part of your agenda, shoot, why not? And it seems like it is really working, like what you said, with the hatred, with the fear, it the virus itself has 99% survival rating. I mean, so what? Like, where does the fear come from? Well, that comes from the media, and
you see commercials all the time, and I'm seeing them all the time. You see them on Facebook, you see them everywhere. They're saying, take the shot. If you don't take the shot, then you're putting other people at risk. You're seeing this, and it's being bombarded upon people daily. I mean, they're just being hit with it. Take the shot, or you're making other people, at risk. You're making other people be at risk, and that's simply not the case. And that's what's creating hatred for non-vaxxers, right?
Yeah, it really makes you think what's going to come after this V. What will come after it? I mean, in 5 years. I mean, will it still be the continuous booster shots, shots this, shots that? Or will it be something totally different? Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Jeffrey?
Well, I think we have an issue, and the fundamental issue is that we have a business that is running a very profitable business that doesn't necessarily align with making people better, because your business model won't work if that happens.
Exactly.
And that's that becomes highly dangerous when you have mandates by companies that have criminal records, and that have knowingly put products out previously that cause harm and death. This is public record. This is not, it's not controversial. So, and to have that mandated when it's been rushed to market, not fully tested, no long-term information, and people losing their livelihoods and ability to take care of their family. I mean, I just don't think that that's a free society.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
That's a society that's in service to the bottom line, that has nothing to do with the health of its society. And so we've got a lot of people who are stressed.
Well, by putting two and two together, you would see that somebody forcing us or telling our employers, you have to take this vaccine, or make your employees take this vaccine. It only sounds like he's in bed with pharmaceutical companies. I'm just saying that, just putting that out there. But if you put two and two together, if you have connected brain cells, it sounds like he's getting some sort of kickback from this.
Well, that, or maybe he's a pawn too.
He may be
Maybe,
pawn,
yeah,
possible. Either way, whether he's a pawn or he's getting a kickback, he's complicit in this.
yeah,
Either way you look at it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having come from the media, in my previous experience and knowing the power of the media and what it can do and how it can incentivize and change and activate people. I mean, here's another example of the media. I went to an art house and watched one of the Friday the 13th with my brother and a friend, and we were coming out of the movie theater, and we were in a part of town that didn't really occur to me, but it wasn't necessarily the best spot to be. And we were coming out, and there were 8 people who jumped us and put us into the hospital, put me in the hospital, and they were actually in the movie theater. And the movie theater was pretty like wound up, it was, I don't know if you remember, slasher movies were a thing at a certain point, and it was all adrenalized. And I'm super clear that if I was in that movie theater watching When Harry Met Sally, nobody would have been adrenalized and nobody would have gone to the hospital. But we were in there watching people kill people over and over and over, and everybody was out like, had something to do with that adrenaline.
Pumped up, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the media can change you without you even being aware and influence your nervous system, interact with your trauma, create new belief systems, give you verbiage around those belief systems, and make you think that they're your ideas. It's very powerful.
I wish we had more influencers or spokespeople nowadays instead of pushing things like that, which are going to create violence. I wish we had more people creating thought-provoking ideas. Think for yourself. Have more ideas. I don't know. Nicki Minaj did that thing the other day. She said, "Think for yourself," and then, of course, everyone's making fun of her. The media is making fun of her, saying bad things about her. But that's what we need to have influencers doing, saying, "Think for yourself." Be your own person. Think outside the box. Don't just follow along with what everyone says. Don't be a sheeple. Tell you what happened to me. I'm not sure if y'all guys are aware of it. Black Lives Matter said that if you have the American flag, or if you fly the American flag or the blue line flag, you're a racist. Well, the other day I was driving down the road and I have a flag on the side of my truck, the magnetic flag. And of course, a black lady flipped me off and told me off and kind of swerved, not swerved bad, but she kind of swerved towards my truck. And these are things that are being pushed by Kaepernick and people in the Olympics, and they're being pushed. Black Lives Matter is a number one. Anybody else is not a number one. Well, the influencers, meaning Kaepernick and everybody else, should not be pushing hatred. They should be pushing thought. Thinking for yourself. They should be provoking, independent thought on people, not hatred. And that's what the biggest problem is with our society since I've been a kid in the 70s. That's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, I mean, surprise. So this is interesting what you just said, and it made me think of a couple things. One is in full circle about media and division and the power of media and what it can do and advertising. The very first account that I ever worked on was Heineken. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've seen the new commercial by Heineken, but they take polar opposite people and they, have them say what they're, this guy, he thinks that religion or, people in religion are awful or something like that. This person is a born again Christian and, evangelist. So it's different scenarios, and they come together over a beer, and then they watch the video of them saying what they said after they've gotten to know each other. And they get a chance to either stay and have the beer or leave. And it's really interesting. After they've seen who they are as humans, everybody stays. And you can see how they connect, and you can see their humanity. You can see, and that's what it is. People are relating to ideologies, which are not human. They're just thoughts. Instead of, oh, okay, you're afraid. And this other person's afraid. You're afraid of a virus, and you're afraid of government overreach. So therefore, isn't there a bridge there somewhere?
Yeah.
There's got to be a bridge there somewhere. You both are activated and you both are concerned about your own personal safety and the safety of the community and everything else. So isn't there some way to work that together as opposed to take that and just start punching each other?
Oh yeah. Like I said, my coworker, we ride in a vehicle, small
Right.
vehicle together. He took the shot. He believes in taking a shot, and I don't believe in taking a shot, and I don't believe in government overreach. And we're good friends. We just
Yeah.
laugh. We have a good time with each other. So,
And that's important. I think more people need to do that because it doesn't end well historically if people keep going down this road of division. And I think that humans and everybody, we're much better than that.
yeah, agreed.
See, I think this sound really conspiratorial, but if you really do sit back and think, like the things that they have put into movies, and then 30 years down the line, oh, it happens, and then the political division, the whole thing in the Middle East, all these things happening, and there's so many YouTube videos trying to offer the answer, and none of them really have proposed or put forth the idea that what if this whole thing that's going on right now with the division, the violence, us pulling out, in the Middle East when we shouldn't, and all these things happening, what if the greater agenda here is to collapse America economically, spiritually, physically? I mean, you can't even have that flag that you have in your background now without,
That, yeah.
yeah.
My wife made me take it off. As soon as I stopped being a police officer, my wife made me take it off of my vehicle. But she didn't make me. She suggested I take it off my vehicle because she didn't want to see me have slashed tires and busted windows and, be a victim of hatred and violence.
Yeah, which really, to me at least, proposes the idea that the media, then Big Brother, that the media is being used as a pawn to cause division with Fox News, CNN. I mean, it's the same crap over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same crap. It's almost as if there's a controlling force that's pushing it. Like I don't want to push a conspiracy theory, about a so-called New World Order, but it really does seem like that, where it's a constant bombardment with violence and violence and violence, and people are adopting that type of philosophy and methodology to life, and it seems like it's really showing.
Well, I seem to think, and you guys tell me if you have noticed this, but I seem to think that it's the in thing for Hollywood. Doesn't matter if it's a movie or if it's a television show. It's the in thing for Hollywood to put in their programming hatred for police in some fashion. There's a show that my wife and I have been watching. We've been waiting for it. This is the first episode of the second season, so we've been waiting for it to come back on. It's called Blue Sky. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. But as soon as the white girl, there are two girls in a detective agency, as one white girl, one black girl, and they're both real pretty girls. And the white girl used to be a police officer, so she tells the black girl, she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna leave the police aid, or I'm gonna leave the detective agency, and I'm gonna go back to the force. I'm gonna put my badge back on." And as soon as she tells her that, the black girl, and it has nothing to do with her being black, it's just the media is doing this. The black girl says, I don't like that. I don't like it at all. You're trying to go back to a organization that is fundamentally designed against my people. And as soon as I heard that, I shut it off. I said, no, we're going to watch something else. I'm tired of watching shows like this. There's too many shows that are out there that Hollywood produces that are anti-police in some fashion or another. And it really sickens me because there's very few police officers who make the badge look bad or who are corrupt. There's many, many, many huge, overwhelming amount of police officers who are good police officers.
and the very, very few make us look bad. And it's just like clergy. I mean, there's so many good clergy members out there, and then you have a few who rape little boys. Does that mean all clergy members rape little boys? Of course not. There's a few arsons out there who are firefighters. Doesn't mean all firefighters are arsons. But in the police force, obviously, if you have one bad cop, all cops are bad. And it's in Hollywood, and they keep pushing that agenda, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah, it's. I saw this thing a while back, um, and it apparently it was some TV show. I don't know what TV show because they showed it, but the TV show uh, was talking about the police force being disbanded. Now, I don't know what TV show that was because though they didn't show the title of of the show, but it was talking about disbanding a police, well, the police force nationally, and
Police,
that,
yeah.
yeah, and it's almost as if all this destruction and chaos from the domestic area all the way to the national um, sector, it seems almost as if there's an agenda being pushed for more violence, more violence, more violence, and
That's all I can think of too. They're
yeah,
pushing the agenda for violence because why would media, why would the media, it doesn't mean what it's the news or movies or anything, why would the media push hatred towards a certain group of people, whether it be police officers or hatred towards firefighters or hatred towards, just whatever, your congressman? Why would they push an agenda of hatred towards one particular group of people? And in this case, it happens to be police, the ones who keep you safe, who
yeah,
keep, or at least try, right? Try to
yeah.
keep your wife from being raped on the way to her car after she got off work at 9:30 at night. This is what police try to do, right? To hate them for doing their job and risking their lives. And I was one of them. I was out there willing to die to keep the public safe, leaving my wife and kids at home, or my wife and doggy at home, while I'm out there trying to keep people safe. I was willing to do that. But it just sickens me that Hollywood is trying to push this hate.
See,
Yeah, well, Ricky and gentlemen, I think the powers that be, whoever's really in charge behind the public facade, the stage, they're following the Communist Manifesto, the book by Karl Marx. They have progressive processes and systems that they set up in societies for a complete societal overtake. They're trying to feed it into society little by little to shift society towards their political or economic ideology. And so we see these changes, and they've been ramping up efforts in the past 1.5 years, like we talked about on previous shows. So that's basically sums it up what I think about it, and I see it clearly. Some people just can't see it. They're like, they listen to the mainstream media, but they won't listen to all like other viewpoints that offer an opposing view. So it's almost like they have perception bias as well.
see, I think that's also the issue with independent news. Some of them, uh, some are just as guilty as the mainstream news. See, I have nothing against news outlets, right? But it seems like, okay, yeah, it does seem like they are controlled by something. It can't be just one person right now. It seems like there's a group of people. I could be wrong about this, but it seems like they're pushing like the same narrative. Like Fox News is pure alt right, CNN is pure alt left. It's like, so the the forcing you to choose which side. But if you don't pick left or right, then you're some type of conspiracy theorist, or you're a whacked out independent. That's the thought, anyways, the philosophy that a lot of people now have, and with the violence and the division, it's almost as if it's leading up to an event.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank each of you for joining us on this episode of Hollis Report. It's been a great pleasure to meet you, Jeffrey, and it's really great to connect and do shows with you again, Ricky and Josh. It's been a great show, so I highly appreciate each of you for coming on.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, guys. Great to meet everybody.
Great to meet you as well, Jeffrey and Josh.
And American and global audiences, here is Jeffrey Davis's website that you can contact him for consulting and or executive consulting services.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
You're welcome. Cheers. Okay, so American and global audiences, if you like this video, please smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and tune in for more excellent content. Have a good evening. Have a good afternoon, everyone, and we will see you next time. And remember, we will be massively successful as we find and apply the right knowledge. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, that was the show that JC Hollis put on, and I really enjoyed being a guest on there. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, JC, for having me on there. What do you guys think? This is our phone number right here. Give us a phone call and leave us a message. If I'm not in the studio at the time, leave us a message, and I'll play it on a future broadcast. Let us know what you think about the things that we discussed, and we'll see you guys next time. Remember, this is Ricky Midnight, proudly unpoisoned. God bless America, and God bless Texas.
Thanks for listening to The Uncensored Voice.
Make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And remember, on The Uncensored Voice, we tell it like it is.
So be safe, my friends, and may God bless America.